Picture this. You're sitting in the exit row of a plane, and as you're finally reveling in the extra legroom that you've managed to, grab, yes, the flight attendant comes over and says, you must assist, right, the crew in an emergency. Do you say yes, but just brush it off as if, it's never going to happen anyway, right? What do you do? Yeah? No? Which one are you, huh? Well, guess what? In 2011, at age 29, that scenario went from hypothetical to very, very real to me. I was flying back from Paris, heading home to San Francisco with a connection in Chicago after a week of client work. And as my, not to mention American Airlines flight, touched down in Chicago, let's just say it was not a smooth landing. You know, the one where you, and maybe some of you are, you cheer, you applaud. Yeah, thank God, thanks to the pilot, right? We landed. It was not that. As soon as our wheels hit the runway, we heard a loud bang. I immediately locked eyes with one of the flight attendants, and we were in mutual agreement. This was not normal, right? Like this was just not normal. As soon as we kind of looked at each other, the captain's voice came over the speaker, and we had smoke on the right side of the airplane. And he's like, evacuate now, right side only, let's go. And so I have to admit, I was scared, right? Like your heart jumps into my throat. People that were just in traveling mode, flight routine, just went from that to emergency mode, right? And it was just really very interesting, just to say that. But of course, I was one of those business travelers just sitting right in the front row. So I'm first at the door. Yes, thank God for that. Anyway, the flight attendant just opens the door, deploys the slides, turns around and say, ma'am, you're going down first. You turn around and you help evacuate the plane. Not a question, an instruction. What she didn't know is that I'm an aerospace engineer by training. I'm a consultant, or at least at the time I was a consultant by profession. And I'm the kind of girl, if you know me, I'm like, okay, we're just going to do it. Let's just do it. Let's fine. So here I go down the slide and, yes, ma'am, let's just do it. So if you've never had the pleasure, let's call it that, to experience an emergency slide out of an airplane, let me tell you this. They are actually yellow. That is actually true. Yes, they are. Big and yellow. They're steep, they're fast, and they absolutely do not care about your freaking dignity. Absolutely not. They literally, people most likely hit the ground really hard, some even bounce. So I'm going down this runway, this slide thinking, I'm just going to hit this. No. So it was fine. Stand on my feet, turn around, and start to evacuate the plane. As I was doing that, eventually, I had the chance to look, on the right side of the plane. There was smoke definitely coming out of the landing gear, but no flame. So for the first time since the announcement, I thought, okay, we're going to be all right. Like, we just need to evacuate this plane and get on our way. People at the time was just, flying out the airplane and literally, it was crying, shouting, you name it, business travelers, families, all of the great human experience, to say the least. Anyway, one picture stayed with me. One woman, a mother, with her baby, holding her baby, having to come down that slide. And I have to admit, she jumped in, and the only thing I was thinking the entire time was like, do not freaking pancake your baby, okay? Not like, please do not hit your baby. Like, this is not gonna be great. Well, she surprised me. She literally landed as gracefully as anybody could compared to other passengers that actually ended up hurting their ankle or hurting themselves. So here we are evacuating, and something caught me off guard. As people were so freaked out about what was going on, they evacuated the plane, but then started running directly straight through the glass toward oncoming traffic because, the airport had not stopped the runway, stopped the taxiway, closed the airport for us. So here they are, people just like running away, scared to death that something was going to happen on the plane. And I started just shouting at them and just like, stay on the grass, don't go towards incoming traffic. Like, how ironic would it be that you're like safely coming out of a, emergency airplane to get run over by another one, I mean, seriously, like, what would it be? Anyway, that's when people actually started turning on me. I got people coming to me and just being like, who do you think you are? Do you work for the airline? Are you even a flight attendant? And I'm like, geez, like, hey, I'm sorry. I was just luck of the draw, just like, hey, I got asked to evacuate, right? And so that was really, really, like, I was like, I think I understand why I do not want to be a flight attendant, but I understand the empathy. And I got, okay, I get it. Like, I do not want to be a flight attendant. People was really mean, really, really mean. Anyway, the pilot comes down. Finally, everybody's out. The pilot comes down, last out the plane, and comes to me, thanks me. And I thought, oh, okay, my job's done. Cool. Well, it wasn't. So a few hours later, because of course, all of us coming from France had no passport, no cell phone, no anything. Everything is on the airplane. And if you don't know that, there's an emergency or an incident, the lovely NTSB need to come and check everything out. So here we are in holding for more than a few hours with a bit of water given to us and some snacks. And a commotion started erupting. This guy was literally like arguing with a customs officer, trying to talk to him, and there was obviously miscommunication. And he was getting really, really agitated. And when you looked around, nobody was helping. Like, it was really awkward. You're like, this thing is happening. They obviously cannot communicate. So I walked over. And the man was actually a diabetic, and he had left his insulin on the plane. And he was really, really worried that he was going to miss his shot, right? He was going to run out of time. Of course, he didn't speak a word of English. He was French. Go figure. And so I just helped, I just translated to the customs officer. The customs officer thanked me, and the man was allowed back on the plane before all of us. In the span of an afternoon, a long one, I managed to really witness the spectrum of human behavior, from fear to, generosity, to self-preservation, to initiative, and you name it. And I'm sorry to say, but I didn't feel it was pretty at all. I think, it was very interesting to see that. But at the end of the day, it's not as much what I learned about other people that day, but what I learned about myself. I was not braver than others, or I'm not more special than others. At least what I discovered was that if I ever run into an emergency like that or that kind of situation, my instinct was to step forward and help. So I had arrived in Chicago, or boarded a plane to get to Chicago, not really knowing how I would react in that kind of emergency. And I eventually left Chicago knowing exactly who I was. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, despite all of this, I still made my connecting flight. So, after get the passport, run through customs, get your bag, recheck your bag, run through the airport, I finally get on the next flight. And I think I was the last one sitting down. And the flight attendant comes towards me and says, wow, you almost didn't make it. And I'm almost like laughing. I said, I was on the plane that got evacuated. And she's like, why is that? Why? Eyes wide open, like, what? I said, oh, you didn't know? We were not told. Okay, cool. And I politely said, please do me a favor. Can you tell the pilot this time around, as we get to San Francisco, I do really need a smooth landing. Because I'm not doing through this again. This was fine, right? So let me leave you with this, though. Next time you pick row 1 in business, or you select the exit row seats, 1, it does happen. So please, it does happen. Not often. It's very low probability, but it does happen. Number 2, think about who you would be in that situation. Thank you.